Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It's been down since like 2 in the morning. It should be fixed.
What's going on over there? I mean, I don't get it.
Millions cut off by a nationwide Rogers outage. The impact to 911, businesses, and more. And
I want to be clear, the pandemic is not over.
expanding access to COVID booster shots in the fall. BC reveals its plan to tackle the latest wave. Also,
I'm just running to the opportunity to fill up gas.
I mean, I would love for it to go lower.
filling up below the $2 mark at some gas stations in Metro Vancouver. But how long will it last?
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Isabelle Raghem. Anita is on assignment tonight. Millions of Canadians spent the day finding workarounds for their phones, laptop, even debit payments. It comes as a countrywide Rogers outage halted cell phone and internet service for users. Our Michelle Elliott joins us live. Michelle, what's been some of the impacts felt so far?
Isabelle, this has been a day that has sent so many people scrambling. Now, the impact started early this morning and has been widespread all across the country. Rogers customers unable to make calls or send text messages, even use data. And that has affected personal communication, but also workplaces and companies trying to conduct their business and provide services today. It's also affecting Interact debit and e-transfer payment systems as well. You know this if you've tried to pay for something today, people unable to pay with their bank cards.
People are, you can't use the bank machine, but it's Rogers and with Fido. I'm with Fido. Yeah, I noticed. It's no fun for everybody.
So I was just at a conference and trying to use Google Maps, but my data wasn't working. So I did get a little lost on the way to my conferences and was late.
It's been a hassle. I've been running around. Should have been like a 15-minute thing. I've been out for an hour now just trying to find money.
A lot of those kinds of stories and holdups today. I was at a gas station, and as you know, they're busy today, but also kind of slow. You can't pay at the pump. People had to go inside to pay with either cash or a credit card, and that just meant things moving that much more slowly. At large events, we're hearing about Faded in the Park in Surrey, people in that audience unable to pay for things there. As for transportation, there's a list. Let me go through it here. TransLink and BC Ferries also affected. They're asking travelers to carry cash. Credit may also be okay. People crossing the border may have trouble using the ArriveCan app. YVR, though, saying flight departures and arrivals are normal today. Isabelle, beyond inconvenience, though, people may be wondering about emergency services. Well, ECOM officials in Vancouver are stressing that emergency services are operational. However, Rogers customers may have trouble getting through to 911.
And Michelle, what is Rogers' response and what are they doing about this?
Well, the company hasn't said a lot about what caused such a massive outage or when it might be resolved. Throughout the day, Rogers sent out tweets saying, "We know how important it is for our customers to stay connected and that their teams are working to resolve the issue as soon as possible."
We are working very, very hard on this. As I said, we haven't identified the root cause yet. We do see some signs, some good signs of the actions that we're taking, making a difference in terms of bringing the network systems back online again. But we do not yet have an ETA for full recovery of the networks. I wouldn't like to say whether it's going to be fully online today or not, but we are working very, very hard on making sure that we get everything running as soon as possible.
He says he does not want to speculate as to what the root cause may be at this point and adds there are many backup systems, but they don't know why they have failed today. Also, they're prioritizing that return of emergency calling. Isabelle?
Right. Michelle reporting for us in studio tonight. Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Now, besides the immediate concerns of this outage, it's also raising questions about why there isn't a backup system in place. And as Renee Filipponi shows us, it's reigniting a broader conversation about Canada's telecommunications industry.
For so many cut off from the digital world, a major realization.
We depend too much on it, like way too much.
And calls for major change.
I think once the outage is over, we shouldn't miss this opportunity to reimagine how we provide these services and who provides them and how we can achieve more competition.
There is little choice for Canadian consumers, with just 3 major national telecommunication providers, Rogers, Bell, and TELUS. This is not the first major outage for Rogers. Last year, a similar failure was caused by a software update. This expert says there needs to be a better backup plan.
The first would just to be to ensure that we had the right analog backup systems, right? We need to have pen and paper, offline options for the services that we're providing as much as possible. Second, I would like to see a publicly owned, at least backup system for these services.
There are also concerns about how things have been communicated with customers.
They were very cryptic about the source of the problem. They didn't seem to indicate whether they had an estimate for when it would come back online or even what it was about.
The Public Interest Advocacy Centre, a consumer advocate, has filed a request with the CRTC to open an inquiry into what happened.
Well, there's always political will when there's popular will. So if consumers are very unhappy about this, if they can focus their anger and take the time to contact their member of parliament.
All this at a time when Rogers is trying to grow and take over Shaw Communications. That would make it the biggest telecommunications company in Canada. But the merger is being held up by the Competition Bureau. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
British Columbians are being asked to roll up their sleeves once again, this time for a 4th shot against COVID. It comes as the province announced it's expanding access to second booster doses. But as Beneath Breach reports, that won't happen until the fall.
The pandemic is not over, unfortunately.
The province says get ready to get boosted again, but not until the fall. Everyone ages 12 and older will be encouraged to get their second booster shot. For some, that means a 4th jab.
With boosters now, we can actually be assured that we are very well protected for a much longer period of time.
You will have to wait at least 6 months from your last dose. So far, people 70 and older, anyone who is seriously immunocompromised, and Indigenous people 55 and older have been the only ones eligible for a second booster. Experts say Omicron is a less severe infection, but the risk of reinfection is higher, and it's important to build strong immunity for the fall when respiratory illnesses are peaking.
I can't be clearer. Get the booster if you've been invited.
Fall preparations also mean new vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, tailored for this specific variant, though approval is still pending.
The manufacturers have developed vaccines that will be better adapted to Omicron, which is great news.
But 1.3 million British Columbians still need to get their 3rd shot. There could be a range of reasons that uptake has been slow.
I think there's still a bit of a misperception that if you've got 2 doses, you're fully vaccinated.
She says stronger messaging on vaccines is needed to prevent transmission, the severity of infection, and take pressure off the country's healthcare system.
We can see our healthcare system is stretched to the max right now. The last 2 years have been extremely difficult in the healthcare sector.
And as the coronavirus changes, experts say it's best to be prepared.
We will continue to see evolution. These variants, it appears that they're coming faster and faster. That there are so many infections out there in the world that each one gives the virus that little opportunity to explore.
Experts remind all of us to wash our hands, stay home when sick, and get vaccinated. As with previous rounds of shots, the province will be contacting British Columbians to get boosted this fall. Beneath Breach, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, monkeypox vaccines are being offered at locations across Metro Vancouver that are considered high-risk settings. It's part of a vaccine campaign aimed at protecting people ahead of Vancouver Pride celebrations coming up at the end of the month. As Yasmin Gandam reports, the supply isn't keeping up with the demand.
It's literally 2 seconds. It's in the back of your arm. I've already got mine, and you're protected.
Todd Berezowski manages the Steamworks bathhouse in downtown Vancouver. His goal is to protect his customers, but also his community. As part of the Vancouver Coastal Health Initiative, people were able to drop in last weekend at Steamworks to get their shot.
You're coming in to visit, use the facilities, get a monkeypox shot, because the way we need to really look at this right now is preventative.
Berezowski says the demand for the vaccine is high. The clinic vaccinated 104 people last weekend and is waiting to be able to provide the shot to more.
We were fielding calls all day. People going like, are you doing this again today? When's the next one? So now we're just waiting to find out when we're going to be able to do it again.
The initiative fielded by VCH is designed to provide mobile vaccine clinics at different high-risk settings, including bathhouses. With Vancouver Pride celebrations at the end of the month, Dr. Mark Lysician says they are trying to protect those most at risk.
We know that Vancouver Pride is coming up, and we know that there's a lot of contact between men who have sex with men during that weekend, and so, we really do want to get the community prepared for that.
But right now, there isn't enough supply to give a vaccine to everyone who wants it.
Right now, I would say the demand for the vaccine is exceeding our capacity.
Lysician says there are currently 18 cases of the virus in BC, but so far they have been mild. But he says it is important to keep an eye if rashes combined with flu-like symptoms start to develop.
Although it's inconvenient to have, lesions on your skin, typically, in a few weeks, they go away.
For now, advocates for the LGBTQ community are spearheading initiatives to protect as many people as possible.
I want to get all my community vaccinated. We'll do everything that I can do.
Yasmin Gantam, CBC News, Vancouver.
The former clerk of the BC legislature, Craig James, has been given a 3-month conditional sentence for fraud and breach of trust. But he won't be going to jail. For details, let's bring in Mira Baines, who has been following the story for us. Mira, tell us about the conditions attached to his sentence.
Former legislative clerk Craig James was sentenced to basically 3 months of house arrest. The much anticipated ruling came down in BC Supreme Court today. Judge Heather Holmes broke down the sentence. The first month is to be spent at home. Then the second and third months, the 71-year-old is required to abide by a curfew. He can't leave his home in the Victoria area from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. There was some discussion in court and exceptions made to allow him to go grocery shopping and go to church. The sentencing seemed rather anticlimactic compared to the way the investigation began. The case made headlines. The former Speaker of the House, Darryl Plecas, had launched his own investigation into James's spending and complained to police. Eventually, James faced 5 charges in court. He was accused of using public funds to buy a wood splitter and trailer that were kept at his home and improperly accessing a $250,000 retirement benefit. He was only found guilty of breach of trust and fraud in connection with improper expense claims for more than $1,800 worth of clothing. They included a suit and a tie. He's been ordered to pay almost $1,900 plus a $200 victim surcharge in addition to house arrest. Judge Holmes says that she accepts James's expression of remorse, but says it does nothing to address the harm in violating the public's trust. Isabelle?
Thanks, Mira Baines, reporting for us tonight. A prominent Wet'suwet'en pipeline protest leader has been charged with criminal contempt over the Coastal GasLink pipeline blockade. Crown prosecutors have decided to pursue the charge against Slato, also known as Molly Wickham. Slato had been a key leader in the movement to stop pipeline construction on Wet'suwet'en traditional territory in northern BC. Coastal GasLink argues the protesters who were arrested willfully breached a court injunction to stay away from the construction zone. The latest employment numbers are out from Statistics Canada, and they show the Canadian economy lost an unexpected 43,000 jobs in June, marking the first decline since January. Despite the job losses, the unemployment rate fell to 4.9% in June, still a record low. That's down from 5.1% in May. The latest drop is being attributed to fewer people looking for work, while job losses were driven by a decline in self-employment. The numbers came as a surprise to economists who had expected we would see a gain of about 20,000 jobs. In this province, however, the jobs minister says BC gained just over 6,000 jobs in June, the most of any province. And some good news and some bad news for motorists as record-high gas prices start to ease up. The good news we'll start with. Some stations across Metro Vancouver were offering regular gas at or under $2 a litre throughout the day today, the first time in months.
I'd love for it to go lower.
I'm just running to the opportunity to fill up gas. Last time I filled up, I was at $2.33.
I wrapped around the block to come back because it was so much cheaper than usual.
Yeah, I mean, this gas station is the first one that we went to, and it's been 10 minutes of looping around because everybody's like at it here, so it's been crazy.
The bad news, those lower prices are not expected to last. Analyst Gas Wizard predicts prices in Metro Vancouver will jump back up to close to $2.06 for regular gas starting tomorrow. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland was in Vancouver today, marking the one-year anniversary of BC becoming the first province to sign on to Ottawa's $10 a day childcare plan.
Early learning and childcare really is feminist economic policy in action. It's such an important solution to the labor force shortages that we're facing across the country, very much including here in BC.
BC aims to increase the number of available spaces to 12,500 by December, nearly doubling the current 6,500 spaces. We are now less than 100 days from local elections across this province, and campaigns are ramping up in most of the province's big cities. But that's not the case in Richmond. Justin McElroy explains why.
It is the fourth largest city in British Columbia, but when it comes to political drama, it may be a little lower on the list. We are in Richmond, home to about 200,000 people, predominantly homeowners, not renters, and a huge Chinese-Canadian population, making it one of the most diverse demographic-wise in all of British Columbia. Now, 4 years ago, it was Malcolm Brodie winning with a huge margin, getting elected to another term, and that's been the case a lot for him over the years. He's been mayor since 2001, and this time around, he has no competition at this point. Now, for a city of this size, that's pretty rare to see. I asked him what his secret has been to win so often by such a big margin. Here's what he said.
You want everybody to have their say, and you want a strong consensus on each and every issue. There will be, as you say, the odd 5-4 vote. But what I'm hoping to do is to have most people supporting most items.
Now, of course, anything can happen. Someone could run against Brodie, but the controversial issues that existed in the election 4 years ago, the English sign bylaw controversy and the discussion over how large homes could be on agricultural land, don't exist to the same extent this time around, meaning Brodie, who is already the longest serving mayor in Metro Vancouver at the moment, could add another 4 years to it come October. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Richmond.
Kuljeet Kaila joins us now with a look at the forecast and mostly blue skies, which is why we must have planned this blue top this evening. What are we looking like for the next 24 hours, and what did we see today?
Yeah, hopefully more blue skies for the weekend ahead. We've been waiting a long time for July to come around and summer to officially kick in. Looking at our satellite and radar in the last 12 hours, we've been seeing clearing conditions for the lower mainland, but still some activity with thunderstorms happening in the Caribou and down near Cranbrook. Now that is all going to come to an end here fairly soon. By tomorrow afternoon, it should all have gone away. The only one that's worried right now is Williams Lake. They still have a 40% risk of thunderstorms for tomorrow, ending tonight for Cranbrook, Kelowna, Quesnel, and Prince George. Winds have died down from 70 kilometers an hour from yesterday down to 20, which is some good news. Overnight temperatures are quite cool with a low of 10 for Quesnel. And like I said, the winds are dying down, which is a really good thing. Here's your forecast coming up. Looks like some drying conditions for the lower mainland. Still seeing some rainy spots in the Caribou. You might see some low-lying fog and isolated showers Saturday night into Sunday, but nothing to worry about. They will go away for the rest of Sunday. And your current temperatures across the lower mainland, 23 in the Tri-Cities, 23 in Abbotsford, and 20 at YVR.
And we will check back in a little bit later. Thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
The BC government says COVID-19 booster shots will be available to people aged 12 and up starting this fall.
It means that we need to be all up to date with all the doses that are recommended in our particular situations.
The move comes as BC is seeing a rise in cases of the Omicron BA.5 variant. Those 65 and up will get an invite first. Boosters will then be made available to everyone between 12 and 64. BC health experts say the new vaccines are targeted to better fight the Omicron variant. For perspective into the latest BC vaccine plan, I'd like to bring in Dr. Brian Conway. He's the medical director for the Vancouver Infectious Diseases Centre. Dr. Conway, thanks for joining us. What do you make of this plan released today to offer a fourth dose starting in the fall?
I think this is excellent news. It provides clarity. It provides us with a goal that we can all work towards. Everyone over the age of 12 or 12 and over will be eligible to receive their fourth shot, which at that time will end up being a bivalent shot with some specificity towards the Omicron variants. So this is clarity. To me, this is the right decision, and it's great news.
You mentioned the subvariants and that it might have been tweaked a little bit to better tackle the new subvariants. When, as the public, when we're not necessarily familiar with this, are there any concerns here that are there new testing measures or new rounds of trials that have to go into place if you're tweaking the vaccine here?
Well, the Moderna vaccine, the bivalent vaccine, has been submitted for regulatory approval here in Canada as of June 30th. So I think over the summer, the regulators have work to do. They will be reviewing all of this safety and efficacy information to which you allude and make the vaccine available if it is safe and effective. And that is the vaccine that we will probably have access to in the fall. So these issues are currently being addressed.
So do you think that's why we are waiting till the fall? Because I think we weren't sure what the announcement exactly was going to be today. But I think there are some people who are surprised that it's in the fall that's coming and not anytime sooner, because we had heard COVID cases could surge as early as August. So was there any surprise there that it would be the fall?
Well, I think one of the issues we face in British Columbia is that between 1 and 1.5 million British Columbians haven't gotten their third shot yet. And it'll be essential that we focus on that over the coming weeks to months so that we're in a very good position in the fall to benefit from this fourth shot. So to me, that was also part of the announcement, and we need to take that very seriously. To benefit from a fourth, you have to have gotten a third.
Why do you think, and have you heard, why do you think people aren't getting that third and potentially that fourth shot? And what are you trying to tell people to get that fourth shot?
Well, I think we've gone from the rules being applied at the level of the province in terms of what we need to do to control transmission to an era of personal responsibility. We still need to stay home if we're sick. We still need to wear masks when it's appropriate to do so. We still need to wash our hands, and we still need to get all of the shots to which we are entitled. And that for everyone is 3 shots. So I think we need to take this personal responsibility very seriously. COVID has not gone away. We've done so much hard work over 2.5 years. This little bit that we're being asked to do is much easier than most of the things that we've done before. So we really need to do that to set up for the fall.
Okay, and one quick last question. What if you've been sick with COVID? I know people who have even had COVID the second time. Do you still need that third or fourth shot if you've gotten sick with COVID?
Oh, absolutely. To me, the fact that you got COVID, despite having gotten 2 or 3 shots, is a sign that you might be one of those people in whom the vaccine has not worked as well as we would have liked. So as soon as you get over that last episode of COVID, please consult healthcare professionals to find out when you can get your next shot. It's even more important for those who have gotten COVID.
Okay. Dr. Brian Conway, Medical Director with the Vancouver Infectious Disease Centre. Thanks for your time.
Always a pleasure, Isabelle.
Now to some breaking news tied to our earlier coverage of monkeypox just moments ago. The first case has been confirmed on Vancouver Island. Island Health reporting 1 case, emphasizing the risk to the public remains very low. Would you ride the bus more often if it were free? One Victoria councillor wants it free for all, though it would still come with a cost. We have the debate coming up after the break. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. A popular youth program has kicked off in Toronto. Hundreds of kids came out for the official start of the Rookie League baseball season, which aims to engage underserved communities. Dale Minukduk has more.
Opening day of the 2022 Rookie League. Beautiful morning for a ball game at Dovercourt Park. hundreds of campers and staff in attendance, all eyes on Michaela Onan, and she lines one up the middle.
I used to be a camper, so I have some of the basic skills.
But beyond rounding bases or sliding home, those like Breonna Francis have gained much more.
I used to be shy and nervous a lot when I was younger, so I guess it brought me out of my shell and I became more outgoing.
Francis and colleague Josh McDonald have each been with the program for over 20 years, rising from child campers to staff, providing representation for kids from Toronto community housing, breaking stereotypes of low-income neighborhoods.
When I was growing up, I was often labeled as that bad kid, going to be in jail, going to be on the streets, maybe working at a convenience store. And again, without Rookie League, without Jays Care, I wouldn't be here right now.
Toronto Community Housing and the Jays Care Foundation are hosting their 33rd season for kids aged 6 to 15. This year, over 350 children and teens from TCHC are participating.
For them to have opportunities where they're not being stigmatized for the wrong reasons, but are being celebrated for doing something positive.
It's a free 7-week program, whereas a 1-week paid camp could cost anywhere from $400 to $500.
It's a huge help because at the end of the day, certain parents, like my mom, she worked 2 jobs at one point, so that just relieved the bill off of her, and she knew that we were fine and we were okay.
What's the white part? Yeah, safe!
The camp costs roughly $500,000 to operate and includes lunch Monday to Friday. Jays Care Foundation hopes to reach over 4,500 kids across the country.
And the things that we really want to focus on is not just important leadership skills, but also important life skills that they can use all throughout their life, such as teamwork, confidence, self-esteem, resiliency, and persistence.
The league will be playing ball from now until August 19th. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A Victoria councillor is pushing to have the city join 100 municipalities worldwide offering free public transit. He's already convinced the city to allow those under 19 and low-income seniors to ride for free. And as Nick Purdon reports, he's now pushing for a referendum on the issue.
Excuse me, I'm on the city council and we're looking at the issue of the transit system. Would it be okay if I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Meet Ben Isaac. He's riding the number 22 through Victoria because he has big plans for the transit system here.
Well, what we've done is we eliminated transit fares for people under 19, and now we're thinking about doing that for everyone in the city.
That's right. Councillor Isaac wants to make transit free for everybody in Victoria all the time.
What do you think of that kind of a policy?
It would make things a lot easier. Definitely would. Rent here is really expensive, so it's a little hard to come up with the bus fare sometimes. Sometimes I'd have to ask a friend for a ride or ask a friend if they have an extra toonie or 50 cents or whatever sometimes, right?
More and more people can relate to that. Getting around in Canada isn't cheap. We have some of the highest transit fares in the world. But could the solution really be making it free? Is that even possible? Councillor Isaac sure thinks so, and he says it would help people in many ways.
The goal is to remove fares as a barrier to people taking the bus. whether to access employment, to access education or culture, to visit with friends or family. And so I think removing those barriers to mobility is really important.
Councillor Isaac already has 2 victories under his belt. He convinced Victoria to be the first city in the country to make transit free for anyone under 19. And this year he did the same for low-income seniors. Now he wants to go all the way.
How do you try to convince people about your idea?
The idea comes from the fact that we have thousands of community members with economic need, and they're having trouble just getting by. I do a lot of listening and asking them what they think and see what they come up with, and then based on that kind of dialogue, either advocate more persuasively or just reflect on what the response is.
While Councillor Isaac is pushing for free transit to go to a citywide referendum this fall, for now he's going more bus by bus.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the pricing, per se, of the bus. I think my biggest issue right now is more the fact that buses are showing up extraordinarily later than they used to.
Yeah, so your concerns around the service levels.
You know, when your bus shows up 15, 20 minutes late, that sometimes determines whether or not you get in trouble on your job.
That's a really good point.
Yes.
Canadians depend on public transit every day, and so, yeah, the stakes are high.
I think you need to improve your system before you open up the fares. You've got to get more people using it.
No, it's a good point. Some people wonder whether it's a bit of a chicken and an egg scenario, that if we had more riders, would the public demand the improvements?
You've got to have a better system.
One of the other arguments Councillor Isaac gets is an old one: taxes, as in they'd have to go up. He estimates going fare-free would cost the city $10 million.
You want transit to be funded just like healthcare.
Yep, through the tax system, that there aren't any financial barriers to people getting on the bus. When you go to the emergency room, you don't pay an admission fee.
How big a challenge is the fact that you'd have to raise taxes?
We raise taxes all the time. I don't like to do it. I often argue against it. This year we're adding $5 million in taxes just for policing. That $5 million right there is half of the amount we need to eliminate transit fares in this community.
While Victoria has its champion and is the city that's closest to having free transit, the movement has support across the country.
Hi there, I'm with Free Transit Ottawa. We're trying to make bus service in the city better and free.
This is a main transit hub east of downtown Ottawa, and it's where Nick Grover is trying to drum up support.
Hey folks, how's it going today? I'm with Free Transit Ottawa. We're trying to make bus service in the city better and free. People like free transit, they like the idea of it, but it's been talked about so heavily by politicians as something that just isn't feasible or isn't doable. And we're out here to say, well, it actually is. It's much easier than we think.
Nick says that taxpayers already pay for about 40% of most transit systems in the country. And the city of Ottawa, he argues, has the money to go fare-free. It's really a question of priorities.
Service in the city better and free. The city spends a lot of money on transportation already, but it all goes to cars. It goes to parking, it goes to urban sprawl, it goes to road widening. That is a lot of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars that encourage driving, and it could be going to something that helps a lot of people and brings our emissions down and makes life more affordable. Hey folks, how's it going today? Good, good. Any interest you in this?
And for Nick, it's because of the environment that he's out here trying to convince people to support his idea.
A climate crisis is at our door. We need to be getting people out of cars and onto low carbon, affordable transport. And making it free and making service reliable is how we do that. There's a link to our petition at the QR code. We're basically asking City Council to begin making bus service free so it's affordable, it's accessible, people don't have to use their cars to go everywhere.
Sounds good.
It's true that people's cars are their single biggest contributor to climate change. And experts say one of the only ways we'll hit our climate targets is if we get more people to ride the bus. And Nick isn't willing to sit on the sidelines and wait for that to happen.
I don't want to wake up one day in an extreme climate catastrophe and worry that I didn't do enough or I didn't do my part. I want to make sure that, me and the people I work with, that we do our part to avert climate catastrophe or the worst aspects of it. That's the hope.
If you still think that this is a radical idea, consider this. There are about 100 municipalities around the world that already have free transit. And Councillor Isaac says he won't stop until Victoria is next.
I think it's an idea whose time has come. I think it's an outside-the-box idea, but I think it's a common-sense idea that resonates with a lot of the values of our society.
Nick Purden, CBC News, Victoria.
Shock in Japan. Former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe assassinated at a public rally, where the firearm may have come from, in a country with extremely tight gun laws and very little gun crime.
Tawasin means the land facing the sea, and for thousands of years it's been the home ground of the Coast Salish people. Now much of their history and culture, which has been lost, could be returned to them by this archaeological dig.
It opens everybody's eyes as far as our people, as far as our history, and how we're going to now sit down as a group of people and start dealing with the issues, planning and so on.
The site is located on the Tawasin Indian Band Reserve. The first signs came when the Department of Highways was surveying a new road and an expansion of the highway leading to the ferry terminal. It's called a midden, really garbage sites from Indian longhouses. The layers of shells are from the shucking of clams and oysters.
We're looking at, say, from about 2,000, 2,200 years, possibly, no later, up to the current time. This section of the site was probably abandoned 500 years ago. So you're looking at a record of about 1,500 years of occupation right there.
It's rare to find a site of this size still intact in Lower Mainland. There were a great many sites at one time, but most of these are now gone due to urban expansion, and this is extremely a very important site because of that.
When the Salish people moved, they used the middens to bury their dead.
The one date they got in the bone was 1,400 years ago. Now this individual might have lived a little earlier than that, because we found some beads with it. And this type of bead is 400 BC to about 400 AD.
This digging up of the past leaves many of the band's elders with mixed feelings.
It's not right to disturb it, but what I'm worried is if we go down many hundred years from now, then find it. I don't know. Who knows? Would they look after it like they do it now, eh?
The Department of Highways has assured the band it will reroute the road away from the burial site, and a mortuary for the skeletal remains and the artifacts is planned by the band. There are hundreds of other middens in this area. Archaeologists would like to explore them as well, but the Indians feel they're sacred and want them left alone, so this entire area is going to be turned into a park. Andy Orr, CBC News, on the Tawasin Indian Reserve.
Former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot by a gunman at a political rally near Tokyo today. He died on the way to hospital. The assassination was caught on video, and a warning for viewers, it is disturbing. The suspect was tackled down by security and taken into custody. The suspect appears to have used a homemade weapon in the shooting. Now, the fact Abe was shot and killed is highly unusual and unsettling for people in the country. As Phoebe Amoroso tells us, few can legally own firearms, and gun crime is extremely rare.
This incident has absolutely shocked the nation. Gun violence and gun crime in Japan is extremely rare, and that really is borne out in the data. Just looking at 2020, there were only 17 shootings resulting in 4 deaths. And usually any kind of gun crime is associated with the Yakuza, with gangsters, as guns are really strictly regulated and controlled. So any kind of shooting sparks widespread surprise in Japan, let alone within a political context. Former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was a figure who was beloved by some, but also divisive and controversial. We can see his legacy in Japan's policies today. For example, Abenomics, with aggressive monetary easing, is still very much the direction that Japan is taking with its economic policy currently. But perhaps most controversial was his ambition to revise the constitution. Japan has a pacifist constitution which prevents it from going to war. But back in 2014, Abe's administration did make an amendment to allow Japan's self-defense forces to fight overseas for the first time. Now, given the increasingly precarious security situation in the Indo-Pacific region, Japan's constitution is once again in the spotlight. And so Abe's legacy is very much living on in modern-day Japanese politics. Phoebe Amoroso for CBC News, Utsunomiya.
One of the organizers of the Freedom Convoy was back in Ottawa courtroom today. Tamara Leach was denied bail, and as Stu Mills reports, she will remain in custody after breaching her conditions.
Tamara Leach has been in custody since Ottawa police issued a warrant for her arrest 10 days ago. She'd been out on bail following a slew of charges related to the protest that shut down Ottawa this past winter. But in earlier court appearances, Leach was granted bail. One of the conditions was that she not speak with other convoy protesters. But last month, Leach traveled from her home in Medicine Hat to an awards ceremony in Toronto where she accepted an award for her role in the protest. There, she was photographed speaking with another convoy protester named in her bail conditions. Today, the Justice of the Peace also considered new evidence. Those are text messages which appear to show Leach had a greater part in the occupation than originally thought. So, Justice Paul Harris said that to maintain confidence in the courts, Leach should be kept in jail. Outside the courthouse this afternoon, a very large crowd of Leach supporters have gathered. They've been chanting things like, "Don't love your country too much or you'll go to jail." Obviously, they're disappointed in the most part to hear the Justice's decision this afternoon.
I'm sorry, but I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. That woman is being locked up again.
She is nominated by the Nobel Peaceful Prize. She deserves it.
Extremely disappointed. We have received instructions to bring a bail review in the Superior Court of Ontario as quickly as possible, as soon as we can get it on.
So Leach was returned to the Ottawa Carleton Detention Centre. She'll make another court appearance by video in 1 week. Stu Mills, CBC News, Ottawa.
In Quebec, preparations are underway for the Pope's visit at the end of this month. But Quebec city officials acknowledge they haven't had much time to prepare. Marika Wheeler has more.
Usually a Pope's visit is planned about 16 months in advance, but the city of Quebec has had just about 2 months. The mayor says that tight deadline isn't a problem for the city because it's used to planning major events and also managing protests.
We're good at it. And we have good people in order to, even though we don't have the time that we would like to have, we take it as something that we don't have any, I would say, any possibility to move. So we take it as it is, and we work with our experienced people, and they're doing a very good job.
The Pope will hold a Mass at the Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré Basilica on July 28th. 70% of the seats will be for Indigenous delegations, and more specifically for residential and some day school survivors. There are about 11,000 tickets to attend the Mass. The Archbishop of Quebec says each stop of the Pope's Canadian visit will represent a symbolic phase. The first in Alberta will be about recognition. The stop in Quebec will be about reconciliation. And the Iqaluit stop is about hope. and moving forward.
I think it's important that we put the few days that the Pope will be here in Quebec into perspective. There's a before visit and there'll be an after visit. We are already very involved in the process of reconciliation.
Because of the limited access in Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré, officials are inviting the general public to come here on the Plains of Abraham. They say bring your lawn chairs, something to eat and drink, and watch the Mass on the big screens that'll be set up in 2 different locations here. Marika Wheeler, CBC News, Quebec City.
You'll perk up for this next story. A goat with ears so long he carries them in a velvet pouch. And a live shot at 6:44, a live look at the Thai Namara Resort on Vancouver Island just north of Nanaimo. Kuljeet Kaila is back after the break with a full BC forecast.
The croissants. Sally Curtis and her daughter are reliving the better moments of their recent trip. The pair traveled to France to celebrate Nevaeh's high school graduation, but say their return to Canada included scenes like this at Toronto's Pearson International Airport, with 4 flight cancellations, a 10-hour delay in Paris, a 6-hour delay in Toronto, and an 8-hour delay in Montreal.
You've got elderly people sleeping on the floor, sleeping on bins that they use for security. People were making beds out of. I mean, at what point does that become also a safety issue, you know, and a health issue? Like, I was not feeling well at all, hadn't slept, hadn't really eaten, didn't really know what was going on.
And it was just like the constant, like, rebook, cancel, rebook, cancel. It just like, it was like a never-ending cycle. I never felt like I was actually going to get home.
Curtis and her daughter say airlines should cancel flights earlier if they aren't equipped to reliably deliver service. That way, customers can make other plans instead of getting stranded at airports. Other recent arrivals at Charlottetown's airport agree air travel is a lot less predictable right now, and the best you can do is plan for delays.
The Toronto airport was an absolute nightmare, but we got here and we're good. Okay. But you got to give yourself about 4 hours.
Minor delays today, but last week three flights on the bounce completely cancelled, so just seems to be the way of the world at the moment.
I don't know, I've probably had 80 or 100 texts to change my flights and change my plans since I left.
She says in the end it took 27 hours to travel from her home in British Columbia to PEI, with her entire family sleeping at the airport in Toronto overnight.
I guess my advice is to be patient. The people at the counter and the people on the planes aren't the problem. It's not, you know, they can't do anything about it, so just be patient and be ready for delays and know that in the end you'll end up where you want to be.
The industry blames the problems, in part, on a shortage of workers. Jessica Doria Brown, CBC News, Charlottetown.
He's just over a month old and already something of a social media sensation. Simba the goat has a very distinct look with ears that are 56 centimeters long. That's about 22 inches, and they are still growing. The kid goat now has a dedicated pouch so he can run around without tripping on his own ears. Really, really cute, and I love the little backpack.
I'm thinking bows.
Yeah, ooh.
And decorative stuff.
Maybe once he's a little bit older and they've grown out. Kuljeet, now taking a look at the forecast, what can we expect this weekend?
It's going to be a pretty decent weekend. Feels like summer is finally back and July is doing what it's supposed to be doing, but we do still have some thunderstorm action happening in parts of BC. Ending tonight for Prince George, Cranbrook, Kelowna. For Williams Lake, it might last into tomorrow afternoon. They have a higher percentage of possible thunderstorm action happening, clearing very nicely for the Lower Mainland and for Vancouver, as we have seen today. The next 48 hours might be bringing some low-lying fog and some cloud coverage, but really nothing to worry about. It does clear later on in the morning for the Lower Mainland. Fire danger rating has been dropping day by day. It's getting better and better. Now we're just sitting at moderate to high for the northern parts of the province. For the southern parts of the province, really not much to worry about. Very low danger of fire because we've had so much rain in the past couple of weeks. Your daily highs across Canada: 23 in Port Alberni. We hit 24 out in the Valley in Abbotsford, 27 in Lethbridge, 29 in Medicine Hat, and Regina sat at 30 degrees, which is nice and warm. Hopefully we'll see those temperatures here sometime soon as well. Tomorrow across BC, your forecast looks like this. Mix of sun and cloud with a high of 21 for Prince George. That uncertain activity in Williams Lake still happening, 22 degrees. Mix of sun and cloud with a 40% risk of thunderstorms in the afternoon, and sunshine for Victoria, 21 there. Mix of sun and cloud for Kelowna, and very humid with a high of 25 for tomorrow, 27 in Cranbrook. Nice and warm out there for you. 5-day forecast looks like this: 24 inland for Saturday. It's going to be nice and warm. We're just above seasonal temperatures. Once we get into Monday, lots of sunshine. 28 degrees for Abbotsford and inland. Tuesday, some clouds roll in. 24 is still our high. Wednesday and Thursday, not looking too bad again. Sitting just above seasonal, and then it starts to cool off as we end the week. But with sunshine is what we're going to be ending the week off with.
Hey, we'll take it. Thanks so much, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
A young hockey player from Whitehorse is gearing up for his big premiere in the Western Hockey League. Gavin McKenna was the first overall pick in this year's WHL draft. As Juanita Taylor reports, the fact he's only 14 years old is just one of the many remarkable things about him.
Home with family in Whitehorse is a good place to be right now for Gavin McKenna.
Ready?
Before he makes his debut at the Western Hockey League, playing for the Medicine Hat Tigers.
I kind of knew that I was bound to accomplish something, but yeah, it came quick, so it was a bit surprising.
McKenna scores!
The 5'10" forward just wrapped up a season where he made top scorer in an 18 and under league. McKenna scored 65 points in 35 games at an elite hockey school in Kelowna, BC. That's what caught this coach's attention.
He has incredible vision on the ice. He has great patience with the puck, confident with the puck. It's just that he's such a young player, and to accomplish that much is pretty incredible.
Gavin McKenna is just 14 years old.
Well, there's lots of pressure coming from being a first overall pick. Yeah, also just playing with older guys, a lot more skilled guys, quicker guys. I'm nervous, but I'm also excited.
McKenna's parents know that he can handle the pressure.
And yeah, just very proud of him because of all the work he's put in, and it's finally starting to pay off, and he's getting some recognition.
Growing up, McKenna and his family lived the hockey life. Early ice times, hours fundraising, tournaments, and a backyard ice rink.
My dad obviously put lots of hours into it, building it, so I would have to repay him by spending hours on the ice.
McKenna recently returned from a hockey training camp in Michigan. He's also traveled internationally and across the border to play and train in other arenas. Not always easy for his mom, Crystal.
We didn't really have a choice. He didn't really have a lot of competition here.
That's proving to be a sacrifice worth making for this hockey phenom from the Yukon, getting set to play with the bigger guys in the WHL.
I hope it'll for sure bring more eyes and younger kids to work towards their goals and believe.
Just start out over, under, over, big net.
Because of McKenna's age, rules limit him to 5 games this season in the Western Hockey League. Coach Desjardins says one of those games will be the season opener. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The brilliant, bold colors of the Ukrainian flag on display as flowers. What one Victoria man is doing in solidarity with the besieged country, that's coming up. Stay with us.
Of suitcases just sitting around.
When Leslie Grossman arrived in Toronto from her trip to Italy last month, she was certain her luggage had stayed behind at her stopover in Montreal.
I knew that immediately because we had put a tracking device, a little tile, in our suitcases.
That device also alerted her when her checked luggage finally arrived in Toronto. But getting it from Air Canada, she says, was another matter entirely. She tried their 1-800 help number.
They basically just hung up and said they were overwhelmed with calls.
So she trekked to the airport, but came home empty-handed.
It was a week of frustration simply because my bag was in Toronto the entire time. So the fact that nobody could find it, that I couldn't pick it up, that there was no help in any kind of way, was really frustrating.
The union representing ground crew, including baggage handlers at Pearson Airport, says it lost 80% of its members during the pandemic, many to layoffs. And luring new workers with slight pay increases and flight benefits isn't working.
I can tell you in the last 22 years, hiring an employee at Pearson Airport's never been a problem, and I've never seen anything like this.
This shortage of labor is creating a cascade of operational challenges for airlines across the globe, especially here in Canada. According to flight data firm Cirium, when it comes to delays among North America's top airlines, Canadian carriers are the worst, which means one thing.
This is going to go on for a very long time.
Air Canada says many reasons for baggage delays are outside its control, but it says it's trying to help, letting customers change flights for free if it gets the luggage on their connection. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Join CBC Vancouver at the 15th Annual Surrey Fusion Festival, a celebration of food, music, and culture on July 23rd and 24th at Holland Park. Plus, it's free to attend. Visit surreyfusionfestival.ca for more info. And tune in to On the Coast Wednesdays for The Climate Changers, a new special series about the people who are taking action against climate change. Learn more at cbc.ca/BC.
A Vancouver Island man plans to harness flower power as he adds his voice in calling for a ceasefire in Ukraine.
One morning and the war is going on and it's madness and all. I just had this vision of, okay, let's make a flag of flowers.
He says it will be the largest Ukrainian flag made from flowers in the world. It will measure 10 meters high, 30 meters wide, made from 100,000 flower pots. Irvin's Ukrainian flower flag will be unveiled at Beacon Hill Park on July 15th and will be on display until the 24th. Way to go. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC News at 6. We just want to remind you, if you're not already watching us on CBC Gem, that is our free app. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Good night.